Oh, you didn't get that?
All right, it's 7:32. We're going to call the meeting to order at 7:32. There are a couple of changes to the agenda, then we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance, okay? Since we don't have minutes, we won't be approving any. We're going to move the business plan to January because Carol was going to help with that. And you said you had this you have?
This we can deal with.
That you can deal with, but the other...
The other stuff we can.
Okay. Under new business, we only have the staff sunshine policy. The other thing, well, we had to amend the staff handbook because, not the whole thing, but parts of it because the language is sloppy. And Carol was working on the rewording of that, which we were all going to have to see. She's really quite important, and she's not here tonight, so there's... so we're not going to be doing other under new business. We just have the staff sunshine policy. We will still have our executive session, and I think that's everything else, right?
That's it.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. Thank you. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Who was that little creature?
Is that the wimpy kid?
What's that?
Who was the little creature we just...
Pledge to the wimpy kid. Okay. Privilege of the floor. Well, I guess this is a good time to bring this up. We got a thank you card from the Sunshine Committee of the library staff, if everybody would like to take a look at it. Because we donated money to their we donated money to their Christmas party, and that's a thank you very much for doing so. Okay, so we're not approving the minutes. I guess we go right to the treasurer's report, Jack.
Wow, that's the fastest
I
I've
know,
been.
yeah, really.
I hope the report can
Norm
go
is hungry. We gotta get moving.
We're live.
We're live.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening,
Hey,
Jack.
Jack. Hey, Jack.
Frank.
Everybody and Frank.
We have the reports here for November. I guess this is month 5, so we're almost at the halfway point for the year. And things are chugging along pretty much as they had been the last few months, as far as staying on budget with our expenses and trying to be on or over budget on our income. But the last few weeks, the library charges have been pretty dismal, as you could expect with the holiday and everything. I mean, there have been some days it's been like $10 or $15. So, and the month of November we were short too. But the number we used for the year was a little ambitious, so we might come up a little short on that for the year. But the salary expense is still. I think there was one payroll period where it was over in the last month, but year to date, it's still under by almost 2,400. So we're pretty much right on track there. The books are still behind. I got about 1.5 inches of Baker and Taylor up there to enter in the next few days after I do payroll tomorrow. Nothing else really stands out on page 1. I don't know why I don't see a utility bill for November, but I'll have to look into that. That should be out there. That might have been paid after this report was printed. I think that was paid recently, so it could have been. I think I ran these reports last week, and hoping to give them to Carol before her mom got sick and everything, so. But it might have been run before that, but I'll look into that. Nothing else really stands out. We got good word this week that for next year, the commuter tax for libraries is going to be eliminated. So that should save us like $2,000 for next year.
Nice.
We just heard this
So
week.
where does that show up here? What no.
Under other expenses, it's the first one.
Under other
On page
expenses.
page 2,
Yeah.
Other expenses, commuter
There you
transit
go, I
tax.
see.
Yeah.
I was wondering what the total was.
Yeah, for the
The year
year,
it's about
2,000, yeah.
That's good.
So that should help a little. And then nothing else is really comes to mind that stands out here. The loan was paid, and the loan balance as of December 1st, after the payment we just made, is $293,091.24.
Yay, we're under 300.
So yeah, absolutely, we're under the halfway mark now.
That's great.
And we have, on this date, $152,000 in the checking But in the last few days, that went down because we had to pay the retirement bill, the 60-something thousand. So we still have about 70 or 80 grand in the checking account. So we should be well funded for the rest of the year. We get our last tax check in March for the remaining 10%. But overall, just steady as we go.
Jack, oh, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Professional services, what
That
were
was my
those
question
for?
too. Is that the audit?
Yeah. Even though we didn't mail them that last check yet, the expense is still showing up.
Right.
The 3,500 is still in there. So that yeah, I believe that was the auditor charges. Yeah, and Rob Schultz was paid after that, so in November there was $485 for professional fees. So a lot of it depends on when you run this report and what hit. And I think I did some bills after this was printed, so there's a few bills not in there. That's why when you look at the total line at the very bottom that we're 29,000 under budget, it's
Right.
really not quite that much. And the flood insurance, right. So that would be part of the reason we're under budget as well. So that's a good thing there too.
Yes.
But when you take all that into account, we're pretty much really maybe slightly a smidge below budget. The year will probably be right on. So you can see for next year that we're kind of at the tipping point now.
I have
Yes.
a question. On a typical month, how many actual checks do you write other than for salaries? How many quote bills do you pay not related to salary? What would be? Are we talking like 20, 200, 2,000? How many checks do you write?
I would say between 60 and 100.
A month.
Yeah, maybe 100 would be the high end. Probably
Okay.
60 to 80 would be a typical
Okay.
month.
Okay. Because I'm just thinking of, you had mentioned you thought that we should review the bills. If I'm understanding you correctly, in the past you've talked about the board reviewing the bills before they're paid. And I'm just wondering if we were to see a list of the bills, how long a list would that be, and how long would it take us to review it? Just as an experiment. I was thinking maybe 1 month we might try it and just see what what kinds of issues come up, how difficult is it, how time consuming is it worthwhile as an experiment rather than either do it all the time or never do it.
So
Well,
would you like for next
Or you
month
want
to
either
be?
Well, just throwing it out as an idea for the board to discuss.
No, what I wanted to know, if you're suggesting that like in the board packet, we get a list of all the checks that were written for the month, or we don't pre-approve them, you want just a list of everything that we
Well,
paid for?
I guess there are a variety of ways to do it. One way that would be one way to do it, just to get a
Okay.
list of all the bills that were paid just in that month.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Do we use QuickBooks or some other
Quick.
accounting software that could create a report,
A check
which
run,
you
or check
put
listen.
in
Sure.
a memo for each check that you cut to show what it was for, or
Yeah, we
would
put
that be
description.
sufficient?
We put descriptions where we can. Like if we buy supplies or whatever, we'll put in a description of what
Then
we
it's
bought.
easy enough, no?
Bernie does
Well,
that.
Bernie
Yeah,
goes in,
yeah.
how often do you come into his office? Once, twice a month?
At least twice a month, sometimes
Right.
3 times a month, yeah.
Right.
And you
depending
go
which month.
over everything that's happened since the last time you were there?
Right.
Right.
And it's, I mean, the one thing, we can certainly get a list and review it. Or you can accompany me. I'm probably gonna go Wednesday or Thursday if you have time.
Well, I was thinking that the whole board should take a look at it.
Yeah,
Just,
well, but I mean, just to get an idea of what we're doing and
Mhm.
maybe get an idea of how best we can go about it. One thing is there are recurring charges, of course, monthly, and then there are additional charges for. You could better explain what other ancillary stuff that the staff might do or programs that they have. So there are some things that are going to be consistent month to month, and there are
Right.
some things that are going to be almost consistent.
But why can't you just print out the report for the month and include it in the package?
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah,
They
check
just-
run. We could do that.
Yeah, we could do
Try
that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking what's the simplest way to do this?
Yeah.
Sure,
Because
that'd be
you
no
already
problem.
don't have help,
Okay.
so.
The check run would just show all the checks, and then, I don't know if it would give where they were coded to, but it would have all the checks, and then these reports say what they were, expensed to.
Well, the report would include the memo information that would tell us where it went to. So,
Okay, yeah,
right?
we could do that.
Yeah, that
So
would be good.
reconcile
I'll have to see if there's a report that
Yeah.
has, you know,
Right, the
not
quote
just-
was to, the amount and why.
Jack, you
Right.
reconcile our books every month?
Mhm.
You could
Rob
just-
does the bank rec, but
Right.
I do, because for control purposes, but I do all the entry and all the coding.
Because there's a
So-
line where for when you reconcile, you know, account this, that,
Mhm.
and then memo, or who it was to, you know, paid to and all that stuff.
Right, absolutely. And the bank statements every month, when they come back, they come out with print copies of all the checks, so everybody knows who the payees were and all of them. So there's like control after control after control. So if any check was, you know, unaccounted for, or whatever, it would stand out on the bank statement.
But you want to exclude the payroll checks? You want to exclude the payroll checks?
Yeah, I don't think we should see the payroll.
Yeah, Jim is supposed to.
But
I was thinking of non-payroll expenses.
the way Warwick does it is that they have a treasurer. One of their board members is the treasurer, but they have a finance committee, and the finance committee meets and goes over all the bills and presents the itemized list to the board and say that they've cleared it, and the board usually gives them an okay. And
So then, before I came on the board, that was Jasper's job. I don't know who did it before him. He was the
Auditor.
auditor of the bills, treasurer, kind of. That's kind of what his title was. What he left, and Esther, I think, took over the balance of his term, and just for whatever reason, he was never replaced. So I'm guessing now that Bernie is doing a similar thing, we could just have Bernie take care of that. Unless you want to.
Well, the only question, I'm going back to your original point was that you thought legally the entire board needed to review
yes,
the bills.
if you read some of the plethora of controller
Audits.
audits, you would have seen specifically the one it was
The
up,
original one that you sent a while back.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm spacing on that.
but there were two of them
Touched
that
some
basically
libraries.
said that
Yeah, I
the
can
board is supposed to get a list of and approve all expenses before the checks are sent out.
Right. Why don't we
And
take the
we'll
first?
go over that. I'll write a
Yeah,
report on all of those
Every,
things.
those were all libraries that
Summary.
were under investigation, so that was a little different.
Yeah.
I'll
This
have
is,
a report
that's
at
a
the
little
next
cumbersome,
meeting
and that
on
would
all
slow
of
us down if we had
all
to
of the
approve
stuff
every-
that I
It's
sent out to you.
micromanagement too. I
Well,
can see
why
the
don't
value in it.
we get your report and then also for first time
Just so we know
the
what we're all
would be
talking
what
about.
month would we get? Will we get we're
We'll
gonna
get
meet in
this-
January. Would it be the December bills?
I think
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
yeah,
Print out the December bills,
right.
and then we'll take a look at it and decide how we want to proceed.
If you wanted, before we file the bills away, filing is always an issue now because we're so short-staffed, but maybe we could leave out for 1 month all the bills that were paid, and then in addition to the report, you would have the actual, you know,
Yeah, I
back
think
up
that-
behind
Yeah,
it.
have that folder there.
Yeah,
Yeah, just in January's meeting, we'll see
Right.
how much trouble this actually is.
That's right.
right. And then you could see,
We're not looking for
Decide-
trouble.
This
We're
is
not
for-
looking for
Right.
more work, and we're not looking to
For
stay
all
here.
of us to come in and be going through
At the next
actual
meeting,
bill.
we're going to discuss it. Well, I don't think we're going to hold you up for paying bills.
No.
I think
No.
that's
No.
This is-
ridiculous.
Right.
That's a.
That's a little micromanagement that's completely unnecessary. But
right,
for a check, I can understand, you know, just so we all know what you're doing.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think I've showed pretty much all board members at one time or another the stack of
Yeah.
bills that some auditors said didn't have enough backup, and
Yeah.
the stack was like this big for 100
Yeah.
bills, so
Sure.
it was sufficient backup. So
Sure. Yeah. Just
everything we pay has documentation behind it, pretty much. So
Okay. Any other questions for Jack? May I have
Yes.
a- Yes, Frank.
So I had one question. Back in that draft that you gave us in October, there was a little memo in one of the last pages about our debt. And they mentioned the Conica Minolta lease, and that we were paying 12 3/8% interest on this lease. That's what the auditors
Is
said.
that a copier?
yes,
It's all, and they were doing a
That's
bunch
when
of
you-
our printing and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
too.
And that this was the sweetheart lease that we were gonna have, that they were gonna do all of our printing for us, and now that they found that they can't do that for us, and charging us over 12% on something. It seems
So,
12%. I'll lend you money at 10.
So what are you proposing
No,
that we
I'm-
renegotiate with them, or do you wanna?
Well, I'm asking what the interest rate, what we're paying 12% on.
The copy machines we have, right? We don't own any of the copy machines in the building. Do we own the printer, or is it just the copy?
It's just the copy sheets.
It's just the
But
copy
it's-
machines we have,
Are we buying them? Is that
No,
what's happening?
we're
Why are we
leasing
paying
them.
interest?
cause it's a lease.
Well,
Right?
a
We don't
lease
own them.
is.
I think it's one of those deals at the end, you have you are allowed to buy it if you'd like to buy it, purchase it.
Lease with an option
Right.
kind of thing?
So is the interest payment the actual lease? Actually, is it rather, it's
I
being
think
called?
the auditor pulled out the interest out of the lease payments that we're paying. I'm going to guess that when the auditors wrote the report, they pulled the interest out and itemized the interest.
Yeah, I'll
Maybe
I'll have to check
next
these
month
two.
you can look, tell us what that is,
Yeah.
what that is.
Yes, would you please?
Something that
Sure.
makes sense.
The copy lease and the details and. Okay.
No problem.
Thank you. Any other questions for Jack? May I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Frank and Keith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Frank and Keith.
Frank and Keith, and
Okay.
it's unanimous. Everybody was thrilled with the treasurer's report. Okay, any other committee reports? Physical resources? After the meeting, Matt will give you Carol's details for the card for her mom.
Good, thanks.
I think that's it. Is, anybody else? Anybody? Okay, moving on. Director's report. You're up.
I spoke with, we're coming to a close and dealing with the insurance and the after effects of the Irene flood. I spoke with the adjuster today. I have to add a few more odds and ends. As it turns out, I probably mentioned this already, DKI was paid out around $46,000, so there's another few thousand left over to cover the furnace, the boiler. I was hoping that they'd cover the rent on that's up in the air still, that we had, it was about $1,000 to use
Oh, yeah,
spaced
the-
down, and I'm not so sure that's gonna be covered, but we did get another 1,000 from, actually tomorrow, Michael Borges, the director for NILA, is coming down to present me with a $1,000 check to use to offset the costs of damages, which is nice. I think that's the second 1,000. We received 1,000 from the New York Council for the Humanities. So all told, I think we're pretty much covered. I spoke with FEMA this week. A woman, Carol, came down from Fishkill and gathering paperwork for her. Just wanted to take some rough notes about what we're going to do about the preventive, the sewage, the measures we'll take to prevent the backup. Right, not the flood thing. I spoke again with our plumber. I brought up the idea of a pump toilet and sink. I finally got word back from the owner of the plumbing company, who said he thinks our best bet, given the infrequency of the occurrence and costs involved, especially when you're dealing with those pumps. He said the problem with those pumps is they're proprietary, that Jim had mentioned, very expensive to replace when they break. And he said you really should, we're back to square one. He believes we should use this so-called knife gate valve, which is basically a gate valve that has a manual, turn it, closes, you can't use the toilets inside, nothing will back up, but you just gotta remember to open it back up when you open the building. He just thinks that's the most cost-effective, easiest way to go, given the options and given, as I say, the infrequency of the event. He doesn't think it's gonna be something you're gonna have to worry about all that much. We have the generator was dropped off last week on Thursday. I was hoping to have them start work on it on Friday, but I could only get them to move it from the front lawn to the back here. I'm not sure which was better. At least out here, if someone wanted to walk off with it, not that any Goshen resident would, but someone coming through town, for instance.
Santa.
It's sort of tucked away.
Santa's coming.
But it's
tucked
safe
away.
now.
We put-
I know.
Well, I tell you, it's tucked away.
Bill,
It's safe and sound.
So the chief of police would be delighted to make sure that
Oh, yeah?
stays there if you just mention to him.
They'll probably
Yeah,
check
He'll
it
they
be
every
will.
day.
They'll put it on
Absolutely
patrol.
delighted.
I'll
So-
give him a call. I talked to Danny about chaining it down, but there was no way we could figure out, so we did some other things to.
But it's pretty
to make
heavy,
sure
right,
it's
for-
safe. Oh, it's.
Yeah, they had to use the truck
It
to
takes
put it
few
in.
people, you'd have to
Mm.
have some early people. But hopefully that will be brought. Well, I hope this week. I already have the electrician waiting for the plumber to do the gas part, and he's ready to go. So I'll push them as you know as much as I can, and still be not making enemies. What else? What else? All this building stuff. The generator, the FEMA, but I think that's about it for that stuff. MTA tax, you already heard about.
Mhm.
The flood. Yes, we cleared it with the bank, even though there was, as we had spoken about, no real
Right.
reason to. We wanted to do the polite thing, and we made sure that everyone was understanding why we were getting rid of the flood insurance.
Mhm.
I got your information from you, thank you.
So you have to
We
do that.
Well,
I had done the MT Easy form
I saw
instead of
that.
a Loma.
Now, when I spoke with their representatives, they didn't make it sound like it was going to be that much of a big deal. I'm not sure. I haven't
It's a very simple
formally
form
done
if it's
the
even
thing.
required.
Right, that's the question. We'll have to.
FEMA is supposed to contact the banks, so they say, to tell them they don't have to get the insurance anymore. You don't have to force them to purchase insurance anymore.
Mhm.
And it's supposed to, you're supposed to get the option, and
Right.
that's it. But they don't always do that.
Okay.
Most of the time, they don't do that.
Mhm.
You have to nudge people,
Yeah.
especially get the bank involved with FEMA to have them stop charging you.
Well,
I was paying $2,000 a year. We're paying $10,000 a year for something we don't need. They redrew the maps actually in 2007,
So-
finalized them in 2009.
well, we have the
So-
bill which we're not paying, so.
Right, so
Yeah.
we like that.
Right. But the other thing was, I was afraid, maybe it was Frank that brought it up, that there might be some stipulation or regulation because we were in an historical district.
Mhm. We're not.
I called up SHPO. I called, and I left a message, and I couldn't get anybody.
No. I'm in a historical district.
Okay, so
And you don't
it's
need-
probably, in
Yeah.
fact, the woman didn't know what the heck I was
And the
talking
bank,
about.
the bank didn't
She
require
called me
it
back
at
and
all,
she
so
said, I don't know what you're talking about.
It
flood
was-
insurance.
The
So-
library had it,
Nothing
it had
to do
nothing
with
to do with.
Just
It was
maybe
a
the color of your
non-connected.
house and the color
Okay.
of the building.
Yeah, that's all the
You know.
historic, and we are in a
I just
historic
wanted to,
building
you know,
anyway, because
yeah.
half of it's built
Right.
in the 70s.
Yeah, right.
And that's not yet historic.
I'm always afraid that the one thing you don't check, the one rock you don't turn over, some snake
easier
will
to
come
get
out.
forgiven.
Right.
I've been there, done that though. I have.
So it's taken care of because we're not paying the bill. So.
Yeah.
But
Um,
the banks get involved because of mortgages. We
Right.
don't have a mortgage.
We
Right.
don't have a mortgage, right? It
Right,
was
and we're
never-
not secured.
That's right,
you know,
if you don't-
Yeah, we have an
we have-
unsecured
I don't
loan
think
just
we have to even
because we're
concern
so
ourselves
adorable,
with
they just
it.
gave it to us.
Oh.
We've been here for 100
Oh,
years and they
shut
know we're
up.
not going anywhere, right, so. Yeah, so that was never really an issue. When are DKA gonna start on that?
They were hoping to start early, late last week, but they said if not, then this week. So I haven't heard from them. They're supposed to contact Michelle.
What are you looking at?
Well, because they're gonna move the pipes to the
pipes.
ceiling, and it's the first thing I looked at when I
Yeah.
came in here
The
to see
sump.
if they've done any work.
some pump.
Because
Hill
we're
Street's,
pumping out that side, and we
Oh.
have to pump out.
We're pumping
I'm-
toward your house now.
Yes, I'm all confused. We're pumping toward that way,
towards the
we're supposed to
church.
pump
That's
that way.
right.
I'm always turned
I
around.
know, I am too.
But-
I've been here years.
I know.
It's terrible.
But yes, we're supposed to pump out that way, and they have to move all
To the
pipes
restaurant, which makes sense.
into the street, actually, instead of the lawyer's basement. The street's
Makes
not-
perfect sense, yeah.
More sanitary.
Yes, there's already a drain, there's already a storm drain out there. It's not sewer water, it's groundwater.
Oh,
It's all right, don't be grossed out.
I'll get those down.
I think
Newsletter. Oh, the other big thing I keep forgetting
that
because
was
I was
nice.
kind of on the outskirts of it all was the symphonies in place, which is the replacement for Horizon, which went more smoothly than I guess people had envisioned it.
We gave that notice.
And
Which is
yeah,
good.
right. For the most part, I haven't. I think I fielded one complaint, which I think has been rectified. People think that it's Little Goshen Library that's creating this havoc. It's the whole system, and
Oh.
it's not really. We can only do so much to help
It's
them
not
understand what's
you.
happening. But right, personally,
Yeah.
someone had thought they had lost all of their information, their books. They had saved their lists and such, which I was under the impression at first that you would lose it all. But apparently they came up with a fix. It just failed the first time they tried. But they're going to upload any information that you had from the one Horizon to the Symphony product. So people should be able to see the list they created.
Can I ask what that list is?
what, it's just books, people that save their,
People have favorites, you know,
you know, it's a famous
Oh.
way.
when you
okay.
put things that
Yeah.
you're interested
Yeah,
in.
no,
And
it all
it
worked. I
worked.
printed it out because it said to, and I was
Yes.
like, I don't know what's on my list, what's on hold,
Okay.
what this, but it worked anyway.
It worked
so,
anyway, okay,
yep.
so they were afraid that maybe there would be a glitch and they'd lose everything, but, so
Yeah.
good.
So
You
So-
didn't have to close early. Is that something you?
No,
thought
we
might
stayed
happen?
up, we have,
Good.
yeah, as I say, it was really remarkably smooth compared to what people were, you know, anticipating.
Yeah,
And I believe that's
I think that's it.
it.
Well, thank you very much.
Question for
Matt.
Mike.
Any questions for Matt?
Hey, Matt.
Hello.
I just have a concern about this knife valve.
Okay.
And my concern specifically is that I could see a period of time where you could go 3 to 5 to 7 years without ever needing it. I could see in that period the possibility that the New York City Public Library wants you to head it and you're gonna run off to bigger pastures. And we've got people here who don't have the corporate memory that this thing existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I can really see that happening.
That's, well, does anyone, is it something that's outside the building? Is it something that's, I mean, I've never seen one of these things.
It's
I
just
pictured
a,
it,
it's like
Yeah,
one
I
of
was
those
gonna
things
say,
you're turning
right,
the.
right.
But
My
is it
understanding
inside
of
or
it is like
outside?
batten down the hatches.
I'm
kinda.
sure it's gotta be outside, it's gotta be,
Well,
No, it'd have to
Danny
be
just
inside.
said
inside.
that, yeah.
No,
my
I,
father-in-law in their house, they have it in the
They have one in the
basement next to the
basement.
toilet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
and
don't
I
you don't
think
want it
it's in-
outside where
you
somebody
don't
else
want
can
it
close it
outside
on
where
you.
somebody can turn it off.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I think it goes in just behind
Oh,
the
really?
toilet.
See,
Yeah.
I pictured
Yeah.
it.
And
I
I-
mean, that meant not probably.
Yeah, no, I think it's just, I don't think it's any
Yes, we are
more,
now.
it might just be larger, but not any more complex than the water
goes
shut-off
right
valve.
on the sewer, where the
That's
sewer
where I was-
comes
We'll
into
put
the
a
house.
big
Yeah.
sign.
Well,
Yeah, but I
you're
know
just-
but I mean,
No, but
I,
I think it's the kind of thing where when we're anticipating a storm, it'll just become part of the
Routine.
custodial routine.
Yeah.
Okay, big storm coming, we just shut this off when we close the
Maybe-
library at night or
Maybe
something
have
I
a
mean-
little
like that.
sign, you put it on the toilet when you close it.
Yeah, right.
I
I
something
mean,
like
we
that.
have met, I mean,
I know
and we
you-
have a valuable asset, but could you have imagined Keyhole going around closing this valve?
Well, you know what? I think Danny would be the one doing it. I don't expect the director of the library will be doing it. I think it's the kind of thing where,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, he makes sure the boiler's lit or whatever he does before he
I
leaves
know,
here at
but
night.
Danny is,
And Danny will train
I
a
mean,
replacement, or we will.
Danny's a
find one.
young fella, but.
I know he's spry and he's really.
Start working now on a user's manual for the
There you
library.
go.
Yeah,
And we'll
that's-
just,
that-
you
that's
know,
a good
what
idea.
we need
do
is
need
checklists.
Yeah,
lists.
no.
It closed
Checklists
down
are
the
probably
lists, yeah.
what we need are checklists, and if there's a what to do before you close the library and just shut that valve. We have a big spray painted orange or something. Turn orange knob before you
Right.
close the library,
That's
then
what
open it back up in the morning.
It's
Yeah,
comprehensive plan. is what
Yeah,
it's usually
something.
called and
right. And we just need checklists for who does
Yeah,
what
'cause-
when.
Because I had to learn the hard way in a number of things.
Sure,
I
and
didn't know,
because you
power
don't have
goes out. I don't know
checklists.
where. I'm running around the
Right.
place in the dark looking for switches, you know, looking
Sure.
for...
Do I
Slowly
have
I
to
learned
change
it, but yeah, I
fuses?
didn't
Do
have a...
What
Right.
about
Poor
flashlights?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
where
we are lucky that we had a guy
Yes.
willing to do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
and put
and like
books
I
up.
said, could you have
Absolutely.
pictured this Keo woman doing
no,
this stuff?
absolutely not. You're right, and it's
Well-
it's
But you know, something to consider is that it is active, it's not passive. So yeah, we'll have to plan to close it each time that there's going to be a horrible storm. But the other problem is, or maybe a way to consider it is, if we could hook up some type of like light, red light or something like that, that we can have in both bathrooms, so that if this light is
Oh, you know
on,
that it
don't
was-
flush the toilet.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
even if it's something that you throw after you're done or before you close the
Mhm.
valve, because at least that way nobody looks at that and forgets
Right.
that it's closed.
Well, you put a sign over the toilet.
we can lock
Well,
the
it's
bathroom.
Lock the
Sign
bathroom.
over
There's a
the
variety
toilet.
of
It's
well,
the whole
this is
bathroom.
Yeah, I
okay.
don't
Well,
know.
we're also getting way ahead of
It's the whole
the,
bathroom.
Yeah,
we don't even
we don't even have it in
we don't
place
even
yet.
have it in place
There's
yet,
probably a
and
certificate.
there's
So you
probably
set up a
yeah.
laser sensor.
There you go,
Some
right.
kind of motion sensor.
there you go.
Or
There's
moisture
an alarm,
sensor.
An alarm goes off. Just like that. But I think
Shock
it's the. I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves. It's a very good thing to keep in mind, and we should just have a close the library checklist,
We
and before a
should have it
storm
anyway,
checklist, we should have it
regardless,
anyway, yes, whether we do this or something different.
Even emergency
Simple thing.
contact list.
Yeah, something,
Yeah.
where we keep the flashlights, where are the matches, you know, something like that, we should have all of that stuff already somewhere.
Yeah.
Right,
In the
and they,
Historical Society.
there you go, I'm sure they have records somewhere, but, yeah, an emergency, okay, impending storm checklist, and, you know what I mean, so the generator's
Yeah.
working properly, and just to go around and make sure all our,
Yeah.
and that should just be one of those things, but until it's in place, I don't think we can anticipate.
Unplug computers, whatever else.
Yeah, right, whatever other thing we might need, but yes, that's something to think about once we actually do this.
During the summer when we're slow.
Right, exactly, right before Christmas,
Summer
really,
work.
when it's not even in yet.
We'll have a
Okay,
dry
we're
run.
done.
We're done.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Okay, unfinished business?
But,
Yes, dear? I'm
is
sorry,
he,
did
is
you
he
have another
to,
question?
is Matt to talk, the programs, like the reference desk? This one, isn't that part of?
That's,
Well,
no, that's
Eleanor.
Eleanor.
Never talk
That's
about it.
Eleanor, and,
I usually give it to you
we
in the
don't
packet,
read
but
those.
We don't what?
we got it late.
We don't read
talk
those
about
and
it,
discuss them at the meeting. We read them ahead of time in the packet, and we didn't get this with our packet.
Eleanor
Okay.
forgot to link it
And
to
it's just
her.
Eleanor.
Let
What?
me ask you a question.
Oh, fine, but I can't
Come
promise
on.
you're getting an answer, because Eleanor wrote it and she's not here.
No. On the second page, it goes into plans for 2012.
Mm-hmm.
We are working on scheduling classes for the e-readers.
Mhm.
Do we have any e-readers?
No,
We
we're looking
don't.
to,
We're looking to get
we're
some?
looking to somehow.
Oh, great. Okay, so you're looking to get into that, to
Oh,
do
sure,
some
yeah.
research
They-
and...
because the
People are
libraries
asking.
themselves need
Yeah,
to be
no, that's
Right.
great.
And we have e-books to lend, and,
Yeah, through the system. huh?
yeah, and, but a lot of people are, what's all this about
Yeah.
this e-reader thing? So a class, that's Eleanor's idea behind it was.
That's great.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that we're a little bit ahead of
You
the
gotta get a
curve.
good turnout on that.
Right, and if we can, we're gonna ask Amazon or somebody.
Yeah, we're gonna
What kind of deal you got for libraries? So, and maybe at RCLS Unmasked buys,
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm
something like that.
Sounds
I don't
great.
think there's anything definite, but these are all ideas
Right.
we were talking about.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you know,
That's good. I'm glad.
okay?
There was one event of donuts and discussion, had only 4 people. What was donuts and discussion?
What kind of donuts?
What were they discussing?
They discuss a book.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
They talk. They
Yeah.
read a book. They pick, and then they come in and have donuts and talk about it. It's like a book club for
You've done it,
kids.
right?
It's a book
It's a-
club.
I
it's
do the
kid thing?
tea
Oh, the
usually, which
tea.
I see is not here yet. Yeah.
I'm surprised that there are only 4 people.
That was
Talking
right
jelly
before
bones?
Thanksgiving.
Is that usually?
Maybe I'd go.
No, I
Funny
think that
thing.
usually does better. I'd have to
Yeah,
look
what day
back.
of the, what
be
day
better
of
if
the
you
week
had
is
some
that? Because
really
sometimes
good
that has
donuts.
an effect on it too.
Coolers, maybe.
I think that's one of Karen's, I'll have to ask her tomorrow. See what the numbers
Maybe the
usually
book
are.
just wasn't particularly popular, if that happens too. you know.
And also the Spanish hour reading, there's not enough of a turnout.
They haven't had a great turnout, but I think they continue doing it. Did she say they did it a couple weeks ago, a couple Saturdays ago.
Sorry, I didn't see it on here.
Let me see,
Yeah.
under,
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
Yeah.
Oh, would that be?
that would be under
considered-
children's, under Michelle's.
Right.
That should be
It's not there?
No, I don't see
No,
anything
it's
here.
not on there.
I'll have to ask her too. I'm fairly sure they did it maybe it was 3 weeks ago, but, I'll check. I mean, I don't think the turnout was great, but there were people showing up, so.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't think they formally canceled it, maybe,
Okay,
that I know, but.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? Yes, Frank, you have a question? You're sitting there so quiet.
No, I have a question in the new business department.
Okay, we aren't there
Something
yet.
to say in
We're
the new
doing
business.
unfinished business now?
Cool.
Okay. So unfinished business, we're gonna go over the proposed budget here. And this isn't finalized, obviously, but this is the suggestions. What is the percentage increase? This is
Top
the
line is
2%?
2, yep.
Okay. So, let me see. I'm just looking, this is
The
this is what
2%.
we have now, or is
Yep.
this an increase?
That-
This is the increase, and that's what we're
Yep.
proposing, we ask for.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So do you want to take a minute to look it over and then fire away? Ready?
I know the years look crazy, all 12
Yeah,
and all.
it's
It
only
looks
13,
like
yeah.
what year it's hard to believe it's
I know.
2013 will be the fiscal year next year.
So you want to explain what this means?
Yes. I just was waiting for everybody to
Fine,
take a look at it.
sure.
Go ahead, Jack.
2% of the, this would be a 2% increase on the real property tax revenue where we're at now, the 1151. So 2% is like 23,000. And
That would
bring us up to 1,174,000.
okay.
And then interest, we reduced it by 1,000 because the interest has been so abysmal. And even
Right,
that
we are.
might not even, who knows what we're going to earn on interest at such low rates. And we put in, and then we did all of our expenses below that. And it came up that we were 15,000 short. So we used, kind of similar to the way Warwick had their budget set up, a line called just reserve appropriation to basically fill the gap on the shortfall. So if we had had a 4% increase, we might have been able to cover it, but with the 2, and then if we use that reserve appropriation, which is really just using funds left over from prior years, which is the 200 and something odd thousand, then we could hit all of our expenses within reason. The salaries has a 3% increase, and then all the taxes below, you know, the corresponding 3%. The health insurance, we added 6,000. Hopefully that should be okay, but that's only 10%. It's been going up even more than that the last few years. The retirement, we put in the actual number that we got for next year, which is even a little more than the one this year, and the one this year was higher than what they originally told us too. So really, like at last month's meeting, we kind of said that those were the 3 key areas that we knew we had to have increases, the salaries, the health, and the state retirement.
Now, this year we're in now, we've gone over our $1,800 computer budget severely, right?
I think we're just
Right,
over
which is
that
why
now.
we put it up to 62.
Right, right. And we had the benefit of the transit tax, as we spoke about earlier, so that saved us
So that
2.
kind of
Balanced it, right? And then the flood insurance is actually 10,000, but Matt and I felt that we should only really reduce it by 7 because the umbrella policy, I think we were a little under. It was like really like 10 and change or 11, not. The whole line was 17. It really should have been like 20. So we just pulled 7 out.
7 out of it, I got it.
Right. And then we added a little bit back to repairs because last year we
Went over on that.
we took that out, so we added a little back in there. And then for the hardware, like we were just mentioning, we had back there. 'Cause Dave knows we're gonna have to get some more computers there. The answer, we added 592 to get to the exact figure, right, Matt? Is
Right,
that,
yeah.
that's the exact figure they gave us on the
That came
spreadsheet.
yesterday.
Oh, so that's
Yes.
we know that's what
That's
it's going to cost
right.
us because I thought, well, that's odd, 592.
How did we
Yeah,
come up
Yeah,
with
right. Where'd you come up with that number?
after a few glasses of wine?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. You're seeing numbers. And
Right. And then the other one is actually an exact number too. That's
our
Right.
CLS members. That's a new
Yeah,
thing. We
a
haven't
new
paid that
thing.
before. Right.
so that's a new. We just added that in there. That's a new one. And then we went over programs, community development. That's Ken.
Mhm.
I understand that Ken has a new potential
Yeah, we'll talk about
agreement.
that.
Yeah,
down at
that's
the
we
bottom
have
there.
we have stuff to discuss later.
So
But
re-
that's we took 8,600 from there.
right, according to his own numbers. So that's really how we were able to make it work
Right.
with only using 15 in the reserve appropriation.
Okay.
Because if without those decreases down there, it would have been even more
Sure.
with only a 2% increase. So
And it's-
that's kind of how it worked out like
Although I
that.
just noticed an oversight, the newsletter.
The new-
That's
There's probably some areas in
Yeah.
the telephone. I mean, there's probably some more that we really should add a little more if we could.
Mhm.
Like-
this is sort of bare bones.
Yeah.
You have the newsletter on here.
Yes, but we
Newsletter
don't
program
have. It
five.
cost us
Yeah,
more
it's
this
more
year
than
than we
that.
budgeted
Oh, the
for
increase,
it. That's
okay.
what, yeah.
But they all should be relatively, nothing thousands per line. It should be all small amount on one line or another or whatever,
Sure.
like a few hundred on telephone or something.
What was the New York State charges extra for what interest? They had to pay interest and they charged us downstream.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
right. The unemployment thing. We didn't put that in. We should really put that in too. Now, I have to find out if that was a quarterly thing or an annual. It didn't even say on that letter. Remember that?
Yes,
That
I
they
remember
owed the
that.
$3 billion.
They borrowed money from the federal government, and then paid back the interest on the money they borrowed, and we all
On
had
our
to chip in.
behalf.
And that was $660 or something
Right,
like that.
and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to pay the $3 billion
The
off
three-
in anyone's lifetime. So,
So we'll be paying that interest again next
Right.
year.
I'll add that in. That's a good point, Bert.
So would that be under the unemployment insurance? Did you?
Yeah, I guess that could be a good spot to, because it really
Because
is.
it is, that's what
It
it
is really
is.
is unemployment.
Because that's who we paid it back to, right?
Yeah.
And Jack, under materials and processing, nothing's changing at all for books or AV or microfilming in a library? We're not anticipating anything in that whole area?
We really can't, because we have all these other, it's not that we're
We'd
not
like
going
to,
to,
but
we'd love to, but we are kind of capped at a 2% increase. Asking for any more, even though there are ways to finagle it, would be a public relations nightmare. And we have all these other expenses that we have no control over, that we absolutely have to meet. That's what's killing us. If it weren't for all of these, the retirement fees went up, the health insurance went up, there's nothing we can do about that. And because of all of that, we can't put more money aside for more books and more, so we have to, reallocate how we buy those things with the money we already have.
Did you talk to the bank about refinancing our loan?
Why?
Because rates have gone so low now. That what are we paying right now?
5%.
It's an even 5?
It's a 5%
it's-
fixed, right?
It's a little higher. I think it's
Is it?
5 and change, I believe.
5.25 maybe?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I could
please.
look into that if you want.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe they'll give it, rates being so low, maybe they would give it a 4%, restructure it at 4%, which,
I guess it's something we could
I mean,
ask
it
about.
can't hurt, they may say,
Sure,
No.
but it might cost money up front to do the loan, and then, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
for another 3 years left on it, is that what we
I
have?
thought we had no prepayment.
We don't have prepayment penalties, but if we renegotiate the loan, they came in here and were really nice and
Yeah,
gave us,
they were.
and I really don't want to poke that tiny little
Well,
snake, and I'm kind of inclined to let it go, unless usually if the interest rates don't go more than 2%, if they're not at least 2% lower than you're paying, it's not worth refinancing the loan. Isn't that the general rule?
Well, that's for a
2.5%.
home mortgage,
Yeah.
I get that, but this is
and that's
a loan.
including the costs of
Right, but
doing. We don't have those costs.
right, but we might, in order to get a different loan at a different rate. We can ask, but my initial reaction is to just leave it alone.
I mean,
It's low enough.
as a tax exempt entity, that 5% rate was outrageously high. And the bank is getting tax exempt income for it. And not only is it getting tax exempt income, it's getting a special kind of tax exempt interest that allows them to borrow the money that they lent to us and reduce their costs of those funds and keep the interest that they earn as tax-free, so they get a double hit of advantages there. And so that 5% was really pretty high all along for a 5-year piece of paper. But
it's better than we were
I
paying.
was just going
Oh,
to say,
yes.
it was an
Right.
enormous
Right.
improvement
No-
over
no
what we were
arguing
paying.
that.
And it was a
Wanted
fixed
6.5
rate,
or
and it was a
something.
definite term, and we were actually paying down the principal, that kind of stuff, so.
I have two questions.
Yes, Norma?
One is the repairs and maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the land? Is that Salesian land, or repairs and maintenance to this building?
I think it's all of it, it's this and the land.
What are we?
The
What
one
are
for
we,
each, yeah.
One for each.
Just in case we need
Just
to
in
do.
case.
Yeah, because
Mowing
we have,
and-
mowing, we have
we
debris
didn't-
removal, we have.
I
what
thought
else?
we didn't
have
pay
a-
for mowing.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Off
We
and on.
didn't, but you never know.
And we
But
were
the
debris
village or the
removal.
town
Yeah,
was-
they were supposed to, but they weren't really
For right
reliable.
away or something. I
Yeah,
thought there was something.
yeah, there is.
And
And?
who's not?
This time
Honoring-
around,
You're
honored
we're
up with
okay?
Mr. Rogers.
Yes,
Yeah, I think
we're
we
okay.
have an issue.
Do you
with the
know
mayor.
anybody?
We have an in with the mayor, so maybe we can get that
Yes.
We
taken
do
care
repairs
of.
on the buildings over there occasionally.
Right.
though.
Right, so
Right.
that nobody gets hurt. We had to pay somebody to replace the doors and locks on something, that
Right.
cost
The-
money.
These two
It's
numbers
just little things
really
like that.
needn't be
Right.
separate. I mean, it's just maintenance for what the library owns.
Right, what we didn't
You know, we
spend
really
there, we
Right.
spent
No,
here.
no,
about
just
the-
that's
yeah.
I see.
The
And
limbs
also,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just going to follow up your question.
Yes.
The limbs and from the trees that came down in the storm, they still lying there? Or?
No. Over there?
Yeah, over there.
Yes. I'm sure
So
they
we
are.
need to get somebody in there to,
Get them out of there.
because if they don't get picked up, then they won't mow there.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then suddenly you start to go back into the jungle.
I forgot all about the limbs. It's lesion.
Firewood. We'll call it firewood.
There you go.
Free firewood.
Yeah.
You know what? If he's not wrong, we probably could get somebody to go out there and cut it up for themselves and take
Yeah.
it for firewood.
Yeah. Right.
And
As long as they don't get hurt on the
still-
property.
Right.
This is what happens with the bonfire.
As long as they don't get hurt on the property,
Right.
they can,
Right.
pull it out into the road or something.
Sign a waiver.
Here.
And let
Yes.
them go walk over there.
No, seriously, I mean,
I know, I don't
somebody
think
breaks
you're
a
wrong.
leg or something,
I
we're,
still think we should let, like, there's,
Seems to worry about it.
would
he's
you
never
like to
gonna
take a-
sleep again. We'll,
Sorry.
put some
Um,
sheep graze over there. I
My,
still think that's the way
my
to
other
go.
question was, new building expenses.
Oh, that's the loan. It's just
Alright.
heading there is not really correct. And we put in the exact figure now. That's exactly what the payments are for the year.
Okay,
It's like the 86.79 a month or something like that.
so it's not actually a new building.
No, I'll change that on the.
Yeah, that's
It's
a
just
good idea.
right.
Just put more, loan.
Okay.
That's mortgage, no?
It's not a mortgage, it's just a loan.
Okay.
Do we need $18,000 for a professional?
That,
Probably.
That's legal?
That's legal.
Legal/accounting. Yeah, I just didn't want the columns.
What county is there too?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Rob Schultz, and
when we,
if we had an audit or that GASB 45 thing that comes up every 3
right,
years.
we have to do that every 3 years, so
Yeah.
we're kind of top to third of it per year. Yes, Frank?
Can I ask that this board consider, rather than raising the amount that we take from the people in taxes, that we reallocate $40,000 from our retained earnings, and put that into the budget this year, just as the way the school districts do when we have 20% of our total budget in unfunded surpluses or extra surpluses. At least in 2010, we were long $222,000.
That was the 15,500 reserve appropriation, that's what we had, you wanna up that to 40,000?
I'm sorry?
At the top, under revenue, there's a blue number, 15,518. That's where we're getting that money from. You wanna up that to 40,000?
Yes.
Yes? Does anybody have a problem with that?
What does it mean?
Do we have?
An
That's
eliminated
my
tax
next question.
increase.
And no
225.
increase, just use
No
that.
increase,
That's
just.
not this thing that says 32? He's not talking about that, is he?
No,
He's
the amount that
talking
was
about-
left in the
Yeah, when we got our
checking
budget,
account at the end of the year,
the money that was
like
left at the end
200
of
and
the year.
something thousand each year. Yeah. It's been.
It's
Right,
been
but I-
200,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, problem with that was
But we-
we were using that against the TAN.
Right, we were running our.
How much
our
of it?
operating.
But we still have
All of it?
enough.
Right, but how much of it was left when we got our first tax payment?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah, we
we
That's-
don't have $218,000 floating around. We'd be in a
no.
lot of deep doo-doo if we
Right,
did.
that's how much money.
Mm.
we
We'd have to get a
Just-
bigger tan, and we'd have to get it sooner,
And
probably.
we should have a TAN for the full amount of what we need. I mean, that should be
Well, can we
a
get
cost
it?
of doing business.
Can we
Yes.
get it? Can we get it sooner?
Yes.
And at what cost?
I inquired about it informally, and they said we could, but we'd have to give them, it'd have to be, God bless, months more in advance. Like, I think normally we tell them in late June or July what we think we're gonna need, the 75,000 for the last few years. If we were gonna need an amount for the whole quarter, or just an amount larger than 75 to cover this reserve appropriation, maybe if we told them in April or something, a few months earlier, then I think they said that they could work it out. But then we'd be paying the interest. The interest would be a little higher, but the interest was $100. Maybe what would it be, 400 or 500? Because it would be on a larger amount for a longer amount of time. But I think they said they could do it.
If we did this, wouldn't we face a shortfall a year or 2 years in the future?
Mhm.
That we'd have to then hit the public up for even more taxes than we would have.
We're already
normally.
going for the 2%, which is
No?
the max.
Here's the thing,
Allowed.
So
the,
Yeah, right.
uh,
You're just creating a
That could
scenario
be
down
an
the road
issue.
that's much worse.
yes,
But in
And-
3 years, the loan will be done, and then that would be the ultimate relief.
For a little while.
For a while, right, eventually we're gonna have to have, right.
Right.
You're throwing 100 grand back into the budget after
Yeah.
that.
Right.
That's when the loan is paid in 3 years.
But that's assuming that all the costs stay the same. Your
And they're not
retirement
going
doesn't
to.
go up
And
and
they're
taxes.
not
And
See,
we
the
don't
problem-
have
the problem
an
is
act
that-
of God, like, you know,
Sure.
we were
Yeah.
lucky with the 10,000 that we were able to not pay the insurance bill for the 10,000 and then have the
Right.
10,000 to install this
Right.
sump pump
That
thing.
was
And we
just
were
a-
lucky
a
we had the
lovely thing,
$50,000 of insurance.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's kind of,
We're cutting it very, very close to
Yeah.
the bone already, and if we dip into our reserve, I think we're cutting it even closer.
Our
And the-
expenses are going up more than 2% a year.
They are, and we're already rearranging money, and we're already taking out of our reserve to cover the difference, so that we don't ask for more than 2%.
I've got a secretary, control of the currency report on reserve funds if you'd like. I will email it to you.
I'm sure you will, Frank.
If you like.
need some
20%
breathing
is
room
considered
in the
very,
budget.
very high. 20% of the budget is
Well,
considered
it won't be
very high to
20%.
be carrying.
It won't be 20% soon. It'll be more like 16 or 17 or 18, and it's going
Yeah.
to keep on dropping because we're going to have to
We're
hit
eating it.
hit it every year.
Yeah,
2% is not going to do it.
no.
And this board should be aware that, as far as from what I understand, this 2% cap can be overridden just by a vote of this board.
Yeah,
But that doesn't
Oh.
need 60% of the voters at the
Right.
election.
right.
No.
No,
You need 60% of the trustees.
yeah.
And I think they
60%.
also need 60% of the vote.
I forget.
I
Of the
thought it had
general
to be
public
60%
vote,
of the
yes.
public has to
It
vote
means
too.
a
oh,
no vote
yeah,
trustee.
Yeah.
maybe
Well,
even then,
well,
but have you
trustees
ever
have
seen
to-
a library election that wasn't carried by 60% of the vote, except for,
Us.
I
When
think
they,
they've come close. We've come
I
close
think-
here. Yeah.
when they snuck in a
I don't
$27 million library.
I don't want to test
Yeah,
either.
there is
Well,
talk.
here's the,
Just
There is
question.
talk of that.
there's,
Talk of that.
My
Yeah,
suggestion
there
is
was
that we need a
no
little
capital
wiggle room.
project on the ballot.
that's what
was
I
there?
think.
Yes.
You can't walk around with the exact amount of money
Where
in your
are
pocket
you?
that you think you're
Do
going to
you-
spend
where
that
do-
month, because every
Did you
month
just
something
move
happens.
into here
And that's just
from
life in your own little, in
Siberia?
a
I
large
guess
library
I
like
did.
this, there's so many
Siberia.
variables, I think it's
Older.
irresponsible not to ask for
I
something.
mean, we can budget
The public
to
can
the
always
best we
say
Came and
no.
can.
asked us to
The
vote
pu-
on a
and we haven't given
$27
them
million
that choice for
library.
3 years. For 3 years, we have presented them with no options. Here, vote for these people or don't vote. Vote on a budget that doesn't change anything. Let's give them the option to tell us no. Put up a 1% or a 2% increase and let the public tell us go jump in a lake. And then if that happens, then we dig into our reserve. That's what that should be there for. But we haven't asked them for anything, and our expenses have gone way up beyond 2%. And we're only going to ask them for 2% because I think, and I think the board agrees with me, that since they put a cap on it, that's all we're supposed to ask for, then that's the right thing to do, is not ask for more than 2%, even though we could do an override, which I think would just be a slimy thing to do.
Mhm.
So,
We haven't even dealt with the building needs to be painted.
well, that's just
I
it.
mean,
There's so
that-
many
those
other
are- that's a
things
big
on here.
expense.
$2,500
We just keep
isn't
pushing
going
that
on.
away because
Right,
of
and
other
there's
things that are more
repairs that
important.
have to be done, and the railing
Can't paint
needs
the
to be
window.
replaced, and there's the roof needs to be, and there's all these other things. We're gonna end up dipping into our reserves, fixing slate that falls off the roof and bricks that crumble. I think taking money that we have put aside and using that for, it's like living on your savings. It's a huge mistake. I think it's a huge mistake. It's there to repair things like Jim's saying, painting the building, fixing the railing is disintegrating. It's mostly paint. That's what that railing is. So I think we should ask for at least 2%,
I agree.
1% or
I agree.
2%.
Yeah, I
And
think I'll go with
Now,
that.
just
Move
to,
on.
not,
Yeah.
and not to push the 2%, but did you guys go to that controller website to see exactly, just to make sure, A, that that we can ask for 2%, because it does fluctuate year to year, and B, if there's what excess of 2%, if there is any, that, even if we ask for 2, we can say, well, we're not asking for 2.16, which is what we're legally allowed to, so.
No, I think.
Well, it's important to go to the state controller site to make sure that we can ask for 2%.
Yeah.
Ah,
I
didn't
think
realize
it's
it might have
generally
to
known
be
this
lower.
year that
Yeah,
2%
I think
is
it's
what it
2%
is.
is what it is. The, asking for anything more than that would be an insult to the public. And like I said, they can always say no.
I don't think we should go above 2 and just,
No, I don't think
and
we
give
should.
us some money in the pocket so that we
Right,
can,
because right now.
rainy
it's-
days, because we had 2
we
very
had
bad
two very bad
rainy days.
Yes.
Figuratively and literally.
And literally, right. And right, we have $5,000 put aside to take care of 5 acres of land in a crumbling building. It's not gonna do it.
And, you know, I was here when it was raining,
Oh, yes.
and you could hear it.
Yeah.
You could hear it dripping on the ceiling
Yes,
up
I
in
know.
there.
You can, and it's a little.
And it's
bright
only a
and
matter of time.
It is. It's a matter of time before that that insulation
Okay,
is nice
I'm
and
talking about the
squishy.
interior
No, I
ceiling
know,
here,
I know.
not the roof.
We
Hopefully
had
it'll
all that
happen at night.
insulation blown in,
Yeah.
so it's just a matter of time before that's nice
Ah.
and juicy. And
So Jack, no 1% budget? Usually we do like a 3 to just show like where other things could come out or go in if we had to go to a 1 instead of a 2.
well, we decided to go straight to the 2 because our expenses went up 5 or 6%, and the 2 was really cutting it. It's already cutting it close.
Bare.
We're already dipping 15 grand into our reserve just to make it 2% budget. So 1% was
I don't think there are many expense lines where we could pull much more from.
right.
We would have to just, the difference would have to be made up in the reserve, you know, add more to the reserve appropriation if it was 1% instead of 2,
Right,
probably, right?
right. So we just decided that the thing to do is just ask for 2.
And then that 2 will be built in every year, so every year we'll have, you know, we'll be starting with 1,174,000, not the
Right.
one.
Right. So if things don't change between now and next year, maybe next year we could ask for nothing, or 1%, or something. But I think 2 is the thing. Our expenses really weren't bananas. Okay. Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right. So are we okay with this budget as it is? Do we vote on this today or no?
When do we do our?
No, we don't have to. I think we can do this in
January.
January.
Yes.
Okay. So
40 days
we'll think
before
about
the
it.
election and all that
40 days
stuff.
Looks like we're
Alright.
gonna make
Yeah.
some minor changes to this.
Yeah, and
Right.
we'll have to shuffle things and rename a couple of things, right, for long.
Right.
Okay.
And if there's any areas that Matt and I think that we, you know, we really should, like the telephone, if we get a notice that the rate's gonna go up, you know, if it's a few $100s more, give or take, maybe we'll just add it on and then.
Well, it did, right? They increased the taxes
Yes,
from
yeah.
the
Everything went up.
telephone.
The
Yeah.
telephone.
Yeah.
It's astounding how many different things. Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, that's $600 more. Oh, sorry, that's